the Spencer County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. First item tonight is approval of the minutes. These have been distributed. If anyone had a chance to look at those, do they have any comments, changes, or corrections, amendments to be added? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, minutes approved. Our first agenda item tonight is Alec Donhart petitioning for a contingent use permit to operate Alex Detailing LLC, detailing vehicles, boats, and campers, providing paintless dent repair and located on approximately 1 acre in Carter Township in an R1 zone, section 14 Township 4 South, Range 5 West, located 6909 East State Road 62, Deal, Indiana. Is Alec or someone representing him here? Would you like to describe what you're wanting to do and give us a little background?
Pretty well, just trying to grow the business. I started there right across from the Patriot Station. I bought the house, so just kind of detailing there in that one garage. Just about it.
And you're wanting to move it to the house you bought now?
Yeah. Yep.
Anyone else have any questions for Alec? Okay, anyone written in or phoned in or anything?
I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
I don't think Alec Donhauer, who started his business when you were, what, 15?
Yeah.
Still in high school, and he started it as he went to high school, worked a second job, and rented space at the same time. And then he, as a, 20-year-old kid,
Yeah.
bought his first home across the road from where he's operating his business out of now. And not that I meant to speak this evening, but I think that we need to give credit to young people who choose to run their own business at such a late or early age. So I appreciate Alec being here today.
Does anyone here to wish to speak in favor of Alec's request?
I don't speak in favor of it.
You just did.
Is anyone here opposed to it or would like to raise any questions or concerns?
John, I have a question for you. We used to approve this variance, and if the detailing business goes out of business, what happens then?
He would have to, after a period of time, if he went back, and usually after 1 calendar year, he would have to re-petition this board.
Okay,
Yeah.
if the business closed,
Correct.
it
Yeah.
wouldn't, in other words, it wouldn't be attached to the property
Correct.
if the property sold or whatever, then, so it would just be pertaining to this business.
And I will say, in looking at the aerial, obviously the detailing business doesn't present any ingress, egress
Right.
issues or anything of that nature. So
Yep.
at this point, from my standpoint, I'm comfortable.
Do we need to specify that it's being granted for the business?
Correct, yes.
Well, if no one has any other questions for Mr. Donhauer or anyone else?
I guess I got one question. Is that the building you work out of, that's like out of your garage on the house, I guess? Is you got a separate building?
Yeah, it's a separate building.
A detached garage?
Yeah.
Deep, okay.
Mm-hmm. How big a building is it? How big of vehicles can you handle?
I got 30 by 40 there, and I got 40 by 50. So, then the 40 by 50's got a 14-foot door and some semis in there.
So you get good sized boats or semis or
Yeah.
whatever. Anybody else have any questions? I guess we're looking for a motion to approve or not approve.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve it, contingent, and we have it seconded, and again, contingent that it's tied with the business itself. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes. Be granted.
I have a question, and I guess this would be K. So this motion was made this evening, and then there are contingencies on if the business were moved, how do you communicate to the business owner this motion, where it stands, and if things were to change? How do you communicate to that property owner?
He's sitting right there, we just told him, I mean, he knows now what he has to do, I think he would know, you know.
Is there any way that we can make it so documentation is sent to the property owner, so that way if there's ever a reference needed prior to this, that we can mail that information to them?
I can do that.
Thank you.
I will point of clarity. We very seldom move through the process without the property owner, business owner here.
Well, if they're not here, we usually.
We just
table it.
usually table it. So, I mean, either a representative, legal representative, or the owner or co-owner is usually here to hear what's been granted, what the discussion is. So I can't recall
No, we've
anywhere
We've
we granted or not granted something without the person or a representative here.
It's always been our policy.
Yeah, just point of clarity on that.
So I guess with that being said, which I think is a great policy for our county to have, how do we communicate to those property owners or business owners when a zoning needs to be changed or if a business is moved? How are they communicated to?
Most of them just would contact us to ask what they have to do. Is it different zoning? Do I need to do anything different? In some places, zoning is the same, they don't have to do anything. If it's the correct zoning, they don't have to do anything anyway.
I guess how are they communicated, we need you to appear to present to this board? How do we communicate?
When they come in with an application, if they contact me, I tell them, this is the application you need to fill out, this is a fee, this is a deadline, and you need to be at this meeting.
Is there any way that we can put that into documentation, so when business owners have these situations, they have documentation to reference? We, on such and such date, will be hearing your business request. I mean, is that something too much?
Maybe overkill, because I mean, like, when they come in and bring their application in, and I give them a receipt, I write on the receipt what day the meeting is, what time it is, and that they need to be here. Because I know Alex, I think he mailed it in to me, but like Mike Obermeyer's here, he came and I wrote on the receipt, that was what the fee was, that was what it was for the meeting and for the variance, and this is the meeting date, this is the time. I mean, they know, I think at some point, probably a little overkill. I mean, most of everybody knows. It was, we got confused with Alec one time, but we got it straightened out, and we've talked a couple times on the phone since then, so.
I'm just asking a question. Thank you.
Our next agenda item is By the Bridge Self-Storage LLC, Mike Obermeyer petitioning for a variance to the current zoning requirements on setbacks of operating a self-storage facility located at approximately 4 acres in Ohio Township in Industrial 2 Zone, Section 14, Township 7 South, Range 6 West, located at 1438 North Plaza Drive, Rockport, Indiana. Is Mr. Obermeyer or someone representing you here?
Yes, sir.
Could you describe what you're requesting and what you want to do?
I believe there's a drawing there showing where I wanted to put in a self-storage facility. And the 70-foot back from the curb effectively takes about 25% of my area that I could possibly use for the facility. Whereas if I were 12 foot off the curb, I could get a lot better usage out of it. And there's still plenty of use, plenty of area there if somebody wants to jump the curb or park or something like that. As far as any utilities on the property, there is a water line principle there. That water line is actually on the county. It's not on my property. And there are no other right-of-ways on the property.
Are these going to be enclosed, or are these just like the open carport type storage?
No, these will be enclosed facilities.
Enclosed facilities.
Some of them will be the traditional self-storage facilities, the wall doors. Part of it, I'm going to use modified shipping containers because they're much heavier, much more durable. I do need to raise the property up about 5.5 inches. I've got a contractor that do it to get it out of the floodplain. questions?
Will this block future, if somebody next to you wants to have utilities run, like that water line ran past there?
The
Will this
property
block
north
it?
of me runs to the lake, along with the highway there. To the east is the highway loop there, along with the Plaza Lane Drive that's right there. I got to go around. To the south, there are two lots that Sunrise Development still owns, and they have approved they have a letter here saying that they approve of this, if you want to see it. And that would be available for development for whatever it is. And to the east of me is Herm Farms. As far as somebody wanting to get a water line or something through there, it could be possible, yeah.
So the water easement and line is not actually on your property?
No, it's on the county.
County right away. In the county right away, I should say.
So what is their water easement normally from the line? So do you don't have any easement or anything on yours?
No.
Okay.
All right, the problem is,
The water line runs about 7 feet from the curb. And it's still technically on county property.
Is it that road there, is that Plaza Drive?
yeah.
Who's in charge of that? Is that county road?
Yeah, it's a 40-foot wide road.
Does it have curbing and gutter all the way through it?
Yes, it does. Except that we're dead end.
Where it is?
And there's a
Okay.
cul-de-sac around. And it dead ends into my property there on the north side.
Has county highway been informed of what you're requesting?
No, I didn't know
I
that.
don't know about using it, but getting the entrance in there, and I don't see any much problem with that, but I can contact Dale. Didn't even think about it.
I would think that they might want to be involved in that discussion. I don't know, whatever the rest of you think, but 12 feet seems pretty close to me.
I think we're 15. But 70 feet is,
And I understand what you're trying to accomplish. You know, you want to utilize as much of your property as you can, but I just don't know if 12 feet's enough there. If somebody,
where the water hydrants, the fire hydrants, there is one fire hydrant on there where the turnaround is, and that would leave about 6 or 7 foot around that hydrant, so that it might be easy to get to it. There's another hydrant further to the east, but that's on Sunrise Development property, or near their property, I should say.
I guess the question I would have is where the county road right of way, is that right up against the county road right of way, or?
Not close.
uh,
Usually the right of ways, if it's a 40-foot road, it's gonna be, yeah, the right of ways. I say probably, I'd have to look at the map, 'cause I haven't looked at it, and I forgot what it said.
And I hate to hold Mr. Overmeyer up, but we probably need to get county highway involved in this to make sure they're okay with that. That would be my concern at the time.
No, I looked at it, and I think,
You know, I don't know the progress, but I think county highway needs to sign off on that probably before we move forward. I don't know what the,
yeah, so,
I said, I guess we could make it a contingent approval, or we can table it.
yeah.
I don't know, John, what would you recommend here in this situation? Well, maybe better go ahead with the discussion, and then we can come back to this.
Did we get anything in from anyone else? Does anyone else here wish to speak in favor of this request?
I do have a letter from Sunrise Development after this.
Sure. And our neighbor property.
They're adjoining property over there.
Regional Development does not object to the building setback from the curb. Did you ever see a copy of this?
I didn't know.
Okay, we'll put that in file then. You guys want to see that? One paragraph. if you want to read it.
We can do that, yeah.
If no one else wishes to speak in favor, is anyone opposed to this request?
May I make one request?
Sure.
If you wish to make a vote on it, could you make it contingent on the county highway, approving them? So, possibly.
And what is your business plan? I mean, are you pressing, do you have contractors lined up, or are you
I
waiting
have
for
a
this?
contractor line to get the soil worked up to where it's above flood. Once I'm at that point, then I have other things, you know, like, there's the concrete put in, foundation for things to sit on, and things like that. And of course, there won't be much electric out there, but I'll have to have electric lighting and things like that. It's pretty minimal that way.
Mr. Obermeyer, what's your timeline?
I hope to be done by the end of the year.
I think that's,
We could, John said we could.
Yeah.
With the contingency of the highway.
Or we could table and come back, or we could make it a contingency on us getting written approval from the county highway.
that would probably be the most sensible way to do it.
That way, that's what I think.
If we vote to approve it, we could make it contingent on written approval for driveway requirements. And then he doesn't have to come back.
Because as I'm looking at this, they're the only ones that's really
Oh,
going
yeah,
to
no.
have a fight or causing a
Yeah,
game.
I don't doubt they have anything.
I mean, they're the ones that's gonna have to say yea or nay.
Yes, we can do that.
In my opinion, don't you think?
I think so. I mean, I want to be able to use all this property,
Yeah.
but we can't make them trouble with it.
Right.
I don't want to create here.
Well, we just don't want to have to fix something later, we can.
Right, if we can avoid it now.
I understand.
All right, if no one else has any comments, I guess we're looking for a motion on it.
I so move to approve the variance, contingent on, approval.
As requested at the 4 foot.
Yeah, at the 12-foot,
Or 12 foot.
contingent to the county highways, sending a letter that they approve of that.
One question, do I need to contact the county highway?
No, I'll call them for you.
I think Amy will take care of that.
And then if they receive it, Kay will get hold of you, and if
Yeah.
not, I guess we'll be back.
Yeah, if they would deny that or say they're not, if the county highway says that this is not acceptable, then we'll have to redo it, I guess.
But I'll talk to them, they're on 410s, I'll talk to them next week and I'll let you know what they say, okay? No problem.
Okay. We've got a
So
motion.
that'd be my motion.
I would second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So tentatively granted. Thank you. Depending on the highway department.
Thank you very much.
No problem. I do have a question. If highway says for the okay, we are to be further than 12 feet, can we go and tell them it's okay? Or do we need to? Do you think it's only more feet?
Well, it's going to be more.
More than that, yeah. What is it, 20 feet? Right. We'll cut, okay. All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving on. Our third agenda item tonight. Nenaska Power Generation petitions for variance for the current zoning ordinance on building heights allowed. Located on approximately 76 acres in a R1 zone, section 35, township 6 south, range 6 west, located on County Road 400 north, being approximately 580 feet east of Old State Road, Rockport, Indiana. Is anyone here representing Tenaska or would like to speak? Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, we're about 30% of the meeting, I think, right
Is
here.
everybody in the
Hi, my
chat?
name is Dave Wagner. I'm the Senior Development Director with Tenaska. I'm, I suppose, the spokesperson, but with the exception of Heather, who we love, everybody else here is in the front row is from Tenaska. So, how you doing? Do you want, should I just jump into this?
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna run through this really quickly. So feel free to interrupt me at any point. How many of you are familiar with what we're looking to do? I know some of you I've met with and spoken with, and some of you I have not.
Just what I've read.
Okay, just what you've read. There's not a whole lot that I'm going to tell you that you probably haven't already read. But like I said, I'm Dave Wagner. I'm the Senior Development Director, and because we're going to be hearing from most of them, I'm going to have my colleagues here introduce themselves real quick. You want to?
Yeah. Mike Carlson, I'm Vice President of Engineering for Tenaska. Jim Kuster, I work in community relations for Tenasca.
Joe Finicaro, I'm Senior Director with the Environmental Services Team at Tenasca.
I'm Larry Carlson, Vice President of Environmental Affairs.
And you know me, I'm Tom Brown, I'm the local rep for Tenasca.
We tell him that he just keeps following us around there.
Yeah,
So,
have to give them the guided tour once in a while.
so quickly then, there we go. All right, so just really quickly about Tenasca. We are the largest privately held energy company in the United States. We were founded back in 1987. We're headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska. We currently own, operate, and or manage about just under 7,000 gigawatts of power plants. We have a power management group called TPS, Tenasca Power Services. We have TMV, Tenasca Marketing Ventures. They're the largest trader by volume of natural gas in the U.S. They touch about 12 to 15% of the gas that flows through the U.S. on a daily basis. And then we are from the development arm of Tenasca, where we are the ones that are responsible for building, developing and building new power generation. So what we're looking at doing here is we're looking at, I'm gonna go in order of the slides so I don't get ahead of myself. We actually have developed about 10 projects over the last few years. They were up in northern Indiana. Well, I guess any place is northern compared to here again, but they were further upstate. So we do have experience in Indiana. Normally I'd spend a little more time on these slides, but just in the interest of time. What we're proposing here is a 700 megawatt combined cycle natural gas power plant. It's natural gas is the cleanest form of baseload power that there currently is. There's a market demand for it here in this area. And we'd be looking at a total capital investment of over $1 billion. On this next map, if you guys are keeping up, this is where we're looking at building. You see down there on the bottom right, that is the current Rockport generating facility. That's the AEP coal plant. The pink circle is where we would site it. We have a purchase option in place with that landowner. To the southeast, we also have a purchase option in place with Frank Ingram, who I believe you all know. The yellow line is the transmission line that we would be using to connect to the substation at the Rockport facility. This is a rendering of what the proposed site would look like. You can also see the reason that we are here is to ask for a variance on the height, as our exhaust stack would need to exceed what the current county allows for. One thing that we are always concerned about is we realize that infrastructure projects can have viewshed impacts. We think that this particular location is going to minimize that. If you go out and actually drive around, especially where the current residences are, they are very well insulated with currently existing trees. We also have done several types of developments where we've also added vegetation in as we go. So why here in Spencer County? Well, I mentioned before there is a market demand from the power side of things. But in order to do these, you need to have sort of a perfect cross-section of natural gas availability, water availability, the ability to transmit your power, a market demand, which I mentioned before, and a community that is going to support it. The first four things we're pretty confident that we have. The community support so far, the people that we've talked to have been supportive of it. It seems like it's something that the community would stand behind. Another question that people generally have, and this kind of does relate to the exhaust stack that I mentioned before, is air quality. And for that, I'm going to kick it over to Larry, who's our VP on the environmental side.
Good evening. So Dave already talked about natural gas being the cleanest available fossil fuel for dispatchable generation. We will also have the capability of combusting ultra-low sulfur diesel in case natural gas supply is curtailed for any reason. We typically permit about 720 hours per year, about a month a year worth of that capability, and we typically design the plant to have about 4 days worth of storage, because as you can imagine, the logistics of getting tanker trucks to refill that tank can be challenging. So We typically think 4 days worth of backup liquid fuel is sufficient to ride out any natural gas curtailment. The big air quality permit that we would need before we can start on-site construction is called a prevention of significant deterioration. That would be an application submitted to the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. EPA would also be involved in reviewing and issuing that permit. The two big things required as part of that permit, which is a category for what's called major sources. It gets extra scrutiny for major sources. The first one is best available control technology. That's a regulatory standard that we do a review to determine what applicable control technologies that we can add onto the plant to reduce and minimize emissions. We certainly install what's called BACT for nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and volatile organic compounds. Typically those are just oxidation type reactions that convert those emissions to typically nitrogen and water. And then the second part of that is air quality modeling. So we take our emissions that would be emitted off the stack, we put it into a dispersion model, and we predict what the ground level concentrations are. And that's done for about 7 different pollutants and probably 4 different averaging periods. And we compare those ambient concentrations to the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, because obviously this plant can't violate or cause any violations of those ambient standards. So both of those are required. IDEM would review all that before they would issue the permit. A lot of jargon there, but if you have any questions, I can answer those. And that's about a year-long process once we submit that application to IDEM, so it's a pretty thorough review.
How often do you have to use the diesel backup? I mean, does that happen once every 5 years? Hopefully never. I mean, is it?
We have that capability at all but one of our plants, and I would guess in the last 15 years, we probably, at any one plant, probably have not used that for more than 2 days, a day and a half.
I mean, obviously it's your backup. You don't want to use it.
Exactly. It's more expensive than natural gas, so yeah, our operators don't like operating on liquid fuel, so it's definitely something we wouldn't do unless we needed to. But yeah, we're very, very rare, but it's nice to have when you need it.
So all the natural gas will be trucked in, there won't be any pipelines?
The gas would be pipeline. Yeah, the liquid fuel would come in by tanker truck. But natural gas, and how close is the gas?
3 miles.
3 miles away. We would just run a lateral to that site.
Is it your own gas? You say you process natural gas, Tenacity does, so.
Yeah, we trade natural gas. We don't actually own or operate any pipelines. So we've been in conversation with the 2 major pipeline owners. There's one to the east, one to the west. Both have confirmed capacity and transport, and then our group that trades actually has available capacity on that one to the east that may be available to us as well. So I think we can go forward. Now, Joe is going to talk to you about our water usage.
Yes, again, Joe Finicaro, thank you for your time. Another component that was spoken of with respect to the generation station is water use. The generating station will use an average of approximately 6 million gallons per day of water. The primary use of that water is for a non-contact cooling system, and then recirculation in a cooling tower. Water sources we're in the early stages of evaluating potential water sources from a volume supply standpoint, and then there's many other aspects within the lower Ohio River watershed and obviously within a nearby vicinity. And just as a matter of a metric of comparison, the $6 million gallons is roughly the equivalent of about 1/100th of 1% of the Ohio River water that passes by Spencer County in any given day, just in terms of order of magnitude. So needless to say, the water, there are several water choices, and that's one of them that we're evaluating. And then, of course, the plant will have discharge water as well. It's estimated that we will discharge approximately 1 million gallons per day on average. Again, most of that discharge water is non-contact cooling water that's recirculated, and we anticipate it will be discharged or released somewhere back into the same watershed here, which parties generally are in favor of. if and when a new point source discharge is created, some of you may be familiar, that does require a national pollutant discharge elimination system permit, which is managed through IDEM. It's an application process and a very thorough evaluation of the nature of our discharge water, the characteristics of it, as well, and with the compatibility of the receiving stream into which it will arrive. Once that permit is issued, it contains numerous terms of practices that we need to employ at the power plant, as well as monthly strict water quality monitoring standards, sampling, measuring, and providing reports, usually monthly, sometimes quarterly, in an ongoing basis. So it's for as long as the plant runs.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
On the water use.
Sure.
You're gonna use 6 million today, you're discharging 1 million, where's your other 5 million go? Up in steam?
The majority recirculates in a cooling tower. It is a mist. It is not a steam, but it generates out of a cooling tower. So most of it will be into the atmosphere.
Okay. And will that water have to be, if you're going to, in theory, if you pull from the Ohio River, will that water have to go through a treatment process before you can utilize it, I guess?
Yes, and we're obviously early in evaluating what treatments will be necessary, but yes, in order to make it compatible with the cooling tower and the plant processes, there's a very thorough analysis of the incoming water and what treatments it requires. And Mike and his team will look at the engineering aspects of that, and scaling questions and so forth, and then their boiler water and so forth. Yes, they will receive some degree of treatment at the site.
On the front end and the back end. Incoming water and outgoing water both will have a level of treatment to metal standards.
And that will happen on your proposed site?
Happens on part of our facility, yes it does. Anything else on water?
Any other questions? Thank you.
I'll briefly touch on a few other things here. So sound mitigation is always on our minds, and we strive to be good neighbors. It's early in the design, but sound mitigation is taken into heavy scrutiny in the design of this facility. And we do anticipate it to be a facility design that will be more than adequate as a good neighbor to the community. We also recognize traffic. There's two really traffic impacts. There's one during construction, and then there's one during operation. And during operation, there's 10 to 20 people a day. That's a pretty light traffic pattern. But during construction, it's a significant amount of people coming during the day. And one of the things that us and a contractor that we've hired to be part of this, put together a detailed traffic management plan, evaluate which way the cars are coming from, how they're getting there, what time they start their shift, to avoid other traffic patterns in the area. We don't anticipate here that this passes by a school on a regular basis, but we have had other projects that their main corridor is right in front of the school. So we would coordinate around bus routes, other traffic patterns. And then deliveries as well. I mean, parts come in by truck. There's a very heavily coordinated traffic plan for roads, which roads, how they're taken, what needs to happen to those roads to be adequate to support that traffic as well. And timeline. So we've got about 2 years right now of development left of work to do. We see earliest construction starting 24 to 30 months from now, with a earliest start of operating roughly 4 years after that, late 31 into mid 32. And Larry, I'll kick back to you here for the other permit review.
Yeah, we've talked about most of these. Obviously, we need the local permits and approvals. We talked about the PSD air quality permit that we need prior to construction. Within 12 months of beginning operation, we will also need to apply to IDEM for what's called a Title V operating permit. And then Joe talked about the wastewater discharge permit that would also go through IDEM. But really, the crux for this request this evening is the need for a taller stack. And the purpose is the stack needs to be sufficiently taller than nearby structures to avoid airflow disturbances caused by those structures. And at a facility like this, that primary structure is what's called the heat recovery steam generator. And in a nutshell, that's where we take the hot 1,000+ degree exhaust coming off the combustion turbine, and we run it through basically a boiler to recover that heat, produce steam, which produces more power without any more fuel. That heat recovery steam generator is about 100 foot tall. And as the airflow, as the wind blows up against that heat recovery steam generator, it has to go around it and up and over it. And when that airflow goes up and over it, on the backside, it gets pulled down to the ground. And if the stack is not tall enough, that airflow coming up over the HRSG will grab those emissions and pull it down to the ground, which increases, ground level concentrations needlessly. So the stack height's all determined through this modeling exercise that I told you about. And so it just needs to be a certain amount taller than the HRSG. We've requested 199 as an absolute maximum. That's typically, if you go above that, that's when you need lighting for aviation purposes. I can tell you modeling that we've already performed for a similar plant in another state indicates it'll be closer to 180 feet. To give you a relative, it's not going to be 1,000 foot like the other stack out there, but that's the purpose of the need for a taller stack. Is to basically decreases ambient concentrations of pollutants. So.
That was going to be one. So AEPs is around 1,000.
I didn't know. I looked it up online today, and I think it's like 1,038.
So what are their cooling towers then? Do you know?
The cooling towers are 50 feet, 60 feet.
Our cooling towers?
Yeah.
Ours will be less than 7.
Yes, yeah, we won't use the same technology as they.
Right. Do you have any idea what those cooling towers are? I mean, they appear to be a half roughly of the stack height.
Probably. Yeah, ours.
So 1,000, they're 300. So your smokestack would be lower than their cooling
That's a good
towers
comparison. Yeah, yeah.
in general.
Yeah,
In general.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not holding it to them.
Yeah, that's a good
Trying to
comparison.
envision it.
Right. Yep.
So the last thing I want to discuss then is just the economic benefits that we would bring to the county. We'd be looking at over 700 construction jobs during the construction timeline, which will run 3 to 3.5 years probably. And we will be looking at about 20, north of 20, maybe 20 to 22, maybe full-time jobs. Those will bring in a salary, annual salary of just under $2 million. And we're projecting currently, this is a conservative number, but we're currently projecting about $36 million in property tax revenue that would come into Spencer County, and about $4.3 million in sales and use taxes. And that figure is modeled over 25 years, and most of that would come in the first 10 years with the way that the asset would like to be depreciated. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to work with the county, the commissioners, the council, the required folks to put together an economic development agreement. We've broached the subject with a handful of them, but we haven't really gotten into really detailed discussions yet about what an economic development agreement might look like. I know the county has one in place with AEP for the coal facility right now that seems to have worked very well for them. And so, maybe we'll take a look at modeling something like that, but essentially we're gonna let the county leaders guide us. So this last slide is just, we're very dedicated to being a good neighbor. We realize that by building this, we're part of the community. We aren't normally, we're not normally one of those companies that would develop and flip. If for whatever reason we would ever sell the project, it would be likely to a utility that you're already familiar with. But we do have a project website, which you can see on the last page of the presentation there, as well as an email. So yourself or any of your constituents that might have questions, feel free to reach out. I think you should also have my contact information. I know Kay has it, so feel free to reach out to me if you ever have any questions, or if there's a concerned neighbor, point in my direction too. My phone rings 24/7, and it really does. But I think just in the interest of time, I already know that we're over, so I don't know if you guys have any questions that you want to ask us, but we're here to help. We're here to answer.
The variance you're asking for here this evening is just part of you guys starting to get your plans together, or just so you're able to move forward with your engineering.
Yeah, that's correct. There's, you know, as you can imagine, by the time you throw in equipment deposits and things like that, we're literally hundreds of millions of dollars in developing these things before we ever put a shovel in the ground. So essentially what we look to do is we look to de-risk the project as you go along. And so in order to help for our engineering and our design needs, we need to understand what the guardrails are that we're going to be needing to work in. So yeah, I feel like the stack height, the Hersing that Larry was talking about, you know, the things that might exceed that, we need to have some assurances that we're going to be able to do that so that we can justify going and spending, you know, 7 more figures on another design or something. So.
Any questions for him? Where's your nearest operating facility similar to this?
Similar to this, let's see here, nearest to here, I gotta get my geography right. We have a few in East Texas, or Northeast Texas, Eastern Oklahoma,
Southwest Pennsylvania.
Southwest Pennsylvania,
Might be the closest.
Georgia, West Georgia on the Alabama border, and Virginia.
Southeast Oklahoma, you already mentioned that.
And when you have 10 in Indiana, did I see?
We've done projects in Indiana, none of them are like this.
Yeah, we do other technologies besides natural gas. So
What are the others in Indiana?
the other ones we did were solar projects.
Solar project.
And those were with partners.
Yeah, we had been hired to develop those for another party. So.
No one else has questions right now? Does anyone here wish to speak in favor of this proposal? Is anyone opposed? Would you like to give us your name, please, and tell us what your concerns are?
My name is Donna Hutchinson, and my husband Dennis and I live at 3780 North Old State Road. Our home is approximately 700 feet, or a third of a mile from the proposed Tenaska gas plant site. We do have a lot of questions and many concerns that we feel need to be addressed. With regard to the request for a height variance for the smokestack, that is of concern to us. A higher stack, in our thoughts, would not appear to reduce the amount nor the composition nor the impact of emissions on the surrounding families and their properties and their homes. Survey participants for the 2025 Spencer County Economic Development Plan that was compiled by RJL Solutions had participants communicating that they wished to stay away from smokestacks. This was their third top priority in the survey that resulted in that economic development plan. Our citizens clearly have then communicated that they do not want additional smokestack industries in the county. And I think it's critical that the wishes of our citizens be considered. It is well known that the quality of air in our area is one of the worst in the state. And so it's unclear to me why we would want to add to that environmental burden in our state and in our local community. Again, the stack and the plant, because we are within 700 feet and a third of a mile, the stack and the plant will be visible from our home. There currently are some trees, but the stack will be visible from our home. And clearly the plant and the stack will be visible certainly in the winter, late fall, or early spring. So that also impacts our neighbors as well. We do request that this variance be denied. Thank you.
I think I saw another hand.
Yes, sir. My name is Michael Kokenauer, and my wife Jan and I live on 350 North, so we're approximately a half mile due south of the proposed project. We also live on a hill. We have not outright opposition. We understand the need energy infrastructure in the county. We understand the attraction to build here. However, for those of us that are really close, there's no way that this doesn't affect our quality of life. Being a half mile south, the 200-foot stack, I'm visualizing that. I mean, it's coming. I'm sticking my head in the exhaust pipe. You know, we'd ask this board to I guess do your due diligence, check out the other operations that they have, see what's transpired around them, see what kind of complaints or what kind of issues that's happened before we move forward with this project. I understand it's in engineering stage. We're early on, and now's the time to be asking these questions.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Yes, I got a question for Tasca. They talk about.
Can you state your name, please?
Dennis Hutchinson.
Thank you.
You mentioned that the community is in favor of this. The neighbors that I've talked to, that's at least 3. They had no idea it's going to coming in here or wanting to come in here. And one lady lives like an eighth of a mile from, actually less than that, from the property line. I'm talking about from the center of the stack. Also, our property, we live in what's called the coal knobs. That elevation is over 660 feet. Your elevation's around 403, if I understand it right. And I understand power, and I'm in favor because I work for the American Electric Power, okay? I do believe it would be wise, if you've already been in negotiation with them, I know they're hard sell to sell their property, but it makes a lot of sense to me to keep it on a zone that's already there and make a deal with American Electric Power. There you want to be close to the substation, you want to get the water from the river, you need to discharge to the river, which they've already done with AK Steel, which is now Cleveland Cliffs, okay? And AP supplies water to Cleveland Cliffs right now from the river, from the pump house down there. So my suggestion is look at AEP and get a little closer to them and see if they'd be willing to give up a section of their property for your footprint. And I'm in total favor of that because that's already been approved. The plant maybe, as we all know, the coal-fired side will be disappearing in 2028 as far as we know. They also have plans for a nuclear, small nuclear reactor package project there. And I've also heard in the wind, I don't know for sure, that they're looking at installing gas generation also, which would be a pursuit like that. My other concern is sound, which you mentioned. I haven't seen a sound survey of what the noise emissions will be from that matter. I do know this. My uncles lived in Sugar Creek Township in Vigo County, and a 3-unit facility was put in there. Each unit was just over 200 megawatts rated each, and sold once or twice. Is now part of NIPSCO, Northern Indiana Public Service Company, and they don't have a sound barrier, I'll admit that, but driving by and being in my uncle's house, which was probably a mile away, you could hear the thing, okay? My other concern is lights. Okay, AP puts out a lot of light. I never did like that, even though I worked there, okay? So that's all I'm gonna say. I just wanna make these points clear to the group. Thank you. I'm against it, by the way.
Thank you. Does anyone else take an opportunity to speak?
I've got one over here.
Oh, sure.
If you have no additional public comments, my name is Rachel Connor, and I'm one of the attorneys for the project, and just wanted to offer some final comments if there are no other members of the public to speak.
It does not appear to be.
Okay. Just one thing I wanted to note in advance of your consideration. The county zoning ordinance says, in K, I'm looking at 157, 120D, structures permitted above height limit, penthouses or roof structures for the housing of elevators, stairways, tanks, ventilating fans or similar equipment required to operate and maintain the building, fire retardant walls, skylights, television aerials, steeples, roof signs, flagpoles, chimneys, smokestacks, wireless masts, water tanks, grain elevators, silos, gas containers, material hoppers, or similar structures may be erected above the height limits herein prescribed. But no penthouse or roof structure or any space above the height limit shall be allowed for the purpose of providing additional floor space for residential, business, or industrial use. I would note that that is a very specific word, smokestacks, but I think the spirit of the ordinance would perhaps lead us to believe that a stack that is not a smokestack would also be something that could be permissible. So even though they're asking to emit something different, largely mist and other materials, the goal of the ordinance seems to be to allow for stack heights, even though it uses the word smokestacks, and this is not a smokestack, thus a variance may be needed. But I just wanted to remind everyone of the language of the ordinance, which does seem to contemplate this type of height for this type of use. Thank you.
Thank you. Letters, telephone calls, other concerns?
Renee Parker just stopped in, and they own on two sides of the property, farmland, and that she's, has no problem with it, yeah.
John, any thoughts that you're concerned about on the legal side?
I've met with Tenasca, I don't have any legal concerns.
So what we're looking at here is granting a variance to allow them to design a smokestack greater than our limit. That's specifically what they're requesting from us tonight in this meeting.
John, what do you think?
45 is the current one.
45.
And they're requesting 200.
That's, that's also, we have that a lot with any cell phone towers, so, 145, we have something that's higher than 2 stories. We've got something that maybe come along for a hotel, but not that one too, because they're limited higher than 45 feet, so one of
I don't think it's possible engineering wise, you're running into dollars as your trade-off. I mean, what's the lowest without completely starting over? I mean, you said you got one you think is gonna be, I don't know who said it, 170-ish, 180 right now. I mean, can that be tweaked and you get down to 150? I mean, you're never getting down to 100 foot, obviously. That would interfere with the other building. I mean, if they had a completely different design, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it won't be known until we do the modeling, but I wouldn't say 150 is out of the question, but I think, yeah, 170 is probably in the ballpark, based upon the other project.
Right.
That would work, but somewhere in that neighborhood.
Anyone make a motion?
Well, I heard the, concerns that was brought up. I guess by allowing this variance, that is not going to approve this project, is it? I mean, it just gives them leeway to move forward with their engineering.
Yeah, but this is, they could go through and find some other thing, this is just giving them where they can start at, they gotta start somewhere, and this is in the process.
Can someone give us a thumbnail sketch of what the public input will be throughout the course of this? Are you needing zoning changes? Obviously, you got a smokestack here, you got IDEM, you're gonna have EPA, how many times is the community gonna have a chance to voice their concerns in a forum similar to this? Obviously, we're looking at just one particular engineering request here.
I know for the air permit and water discharge permit in front of IDEM, each one of those would afford the public to request a public hearing, and those are typically held locally.
We do have a hearing on the rezoning of the parcel after this at the next meeting.
For clarity, the project will also have to apply to K for the requisite local permits further down the line once you actually have engineering. K, don't even think about retiring. Don't even, don't.
You better move the schedule up.
So yes, we're not approving the project.
Don't know.
We're approving the first engineering step. Not to minimize what we're doing.
No.
Exactly. Well, with that in mind, I mean, we're not approving the project, we're giving a variance for engineering to move forward. You know, there's gonna be other times where this debate can take place in a public forum. That's probably gonna be more well advertised than this, so with that in mind, I would move to approve the variance for the stack height limit of 199 or whatever they propose, 199 feet.
So Phil's made a motion to approve the grant for 199 limit on a stack greater than our 45, which is in our current regulations. Do I have a second?
I would second that.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor of granting the variance for the stack height? Oh, yeah, that's all we're doing is granting the variance for the stack. I know it sounds like we're trying to cover our butt, but just want everyone to understand,
That's it, yeah.
you know, what we are, what's being requested and what we're approving here. So everyone in favor of the motions? Aye. Okay. Motion grants. That's not to minimize everyone's concerns, and
Absolutely not.
you know, certainly there'll be more opportunities to express it. I love the idea of the AEP's ground. I think a lot of times they've got a block there that they just are sitting on, and it's a whole lot of land that could be utilized. But I don't own the land, so that's just my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with my position on this board. I should shut up, but, so, granted.
Thank you.
Sure. Next on our agenda is old and new business. Do we have any old business?
The only thing I had mentioned before the meeting started was the application by Ms. Parson.
Yeah, we had tabled it before because she had been ill. She has since, and after the second time we had tabled, she has since asked us to just wait until her health was in a better place to possibly do that. And I told her, instead of putting on every meeting, we would wait until she contacted me and said, yes, I'm community. So,
Let's just table it definitely.
yeah, until we do something, because she just isn't able to do it right now.
Any new business we need to know about? Okay, well, we've run over, so I guess we're ready for a motion to your fault. I usually run fast. I blame this on. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Meeting closed. What do you need? 10-minute recess between meetings?
Well, I'm gonna give them a little bit of time to get situated.
Howdy.
Go to the,